Rotate, the command committing Flight 191 to the sky. Then, a brutal metallic snap, a shudder. Captain Lux's final word, damn. Then, silence. Absolute cockpit silence. But this silence was the real killer. On May 25, 1979, American Airlines Flight 191 plunged moments after takeoff from Chicago. 271 lives lost, the deadliest single aircraft disaster in U.S. history. The world saw the horror, an engine ripped from the wing, global panic, DC-10s grounded. Investigators demanded how, why, who failed. Yet the evidence, the plane's black boxes, offered only silence, static, scrambled data. They died with the left engine. This void wasn't empty. It meant warnings never sounded. Critical systems dead. A crew flying blind into a stall they couldn't see and couldn't hear. Flight 191's doom wasn't just the falling engine. It was a chain reaction. Hidden maintenance failures, warnings silenced by a single flaw, shortcuts taken on the hangar floor. Damn. Then silence. The real killer wasn't the visible break. It was the invisible void of warning and data that followed. This is the story of the silence that murdered a flight. But before we begin, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel to support our community. American Airlines, established back in 1930, serves as the leading airline of the United States. During its existence, it has grown into the globe's biggest airline by passenger volume. Starting around the 1970s, American Airlines sought to optimize the potential of its extended routes, approaching both Boeing and McDonnell Douglas for an answer. After evaluating the performance of the Boeing 747 alongside the McDonnell Douglas DC-10, American Airlines ultimately decided on the DC-10 for its primary long-haul fleet. The DC-10s operated by American Airlines enjoyed an extensive and notable service history, though one marked by certain events. In 1972, soon after receiving them, a DC-10 operating as Flight 96 suffered a cargo door failure, but managed a safe return without fatalities. Regrettably, this identical problem would trigger a significant tragedy involving Turkish Airlines Flight 981 merely 2 years afterwards. This crash would, sadly, not prove the final one concerning a DC-10. On May 25, 1979, American Airlines Flight 191 was due to depart from Chicago's O'Hare International Airport, heading for Los Angeles International Airport. The journey was anticipated to last just 5 hours. Aboard the aircraft were 271 individuals, 258 travelers, and 13 staff members. The flight deck team included Captain Walter Lux, aged 53, First Officer James Dillard, aged 49, along with flight engineer Alfred Udovich, aged 56. All 3 pilots possessed substantial airline flying backgrounds and were undertaking a route familiar from numerous past flights. At 3:04 p.m., authorization was provided for takeoff, and First Officer Dillard advanced the throttles to takeoff thrust. The jet accelerated along runway 32 right, increasing velocity until surpassing 100 knots, then reaching V1, the speed beyond which safely stopping the takeoff was no longer feasible. Captain Lux announced, "Rotate," and First Officer Dillard drew back the control column to raise the nose. Precisely then, a shudder passed through the airframe, accompanied by a metallic fracture noise. Captain Lux uttered just one word, "Damn!" before the instrument displays failed. From the tower, a controller glanced upward just in time to observe an alarming view. Flight 191's left engine had detached from the jet and crashed onto the runway. He yelled a report to colleagues in the tower, then urgently summoned emergency crews for dispatch. He tried contacting the distressed aircraft. Shortly, observers both on the ground and in the tower witnessed the plane starting to tilt leftwards before rolling completely onto its left wing. 2 photographers, coincidentally present, documented this occurrence. Subsequently, the aircraft descended earthward, remaining tilted until it impacted a hangar functioning as an auto repair facility. The ensuing blast and inferno were immense, with certain onlookers depicting it as reminiscent of fire raining down. Rescue units swiftly arrived at the scene, initially believing the adjacent Standard Oil Petroleum facility was burning. It rapidly became evident that a passenger airliner had actually crashed. Fire crews subdued the fire and commenced searching for survivors. It became, nonetheless, swiftly apparent that no one remained alive amid the dispersed wreckage. All 271 occupants perished. Moreover, 2 auto technicians laboring inside the hangar during impact were also killed. The burning wreckage ignited a trailer park near the airport's rear and inflicted substantial destruction, but caused no additional ground fatalities. Flight 191's crash was then, and remains, the deadliest singular aircraft disaster in American aviation's past. The National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, initiated an inquiry. Initially, it was evident the engine had separated from the airframe, and this had precipitated the crash, yet unresolved queries lingered. How and why did the engine detach? Could the pilots have potentially salvaged the aircraft? And, most crucially, who bore responsibility for the tragedy? The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, mandated that every DC-10 be grounded and any DC-10s operated internationally be barred from U.S. skies. Quickly, images of the ill-fated flight emerged in newspapers nationwide. These dual developments combined to make public opinion regarding the DC-10's safety record plummet dramatically. Over subsequent months, numerous travelers globally would shun any flight employing a DC-10. Initially, the reason for the engine detachment was believed to be a broken bolt recovered on the runway. This hypothesis was shared at a news briefing before the actual cause was subsequently determined unrelated to that damaged bolt. To uncover the genuine reason for the catastrophe, investigators focused on the aircraft's black boxes, both offering troublesome data. The cockpit voice recorder ceased operating immediately following Captain Lux's utterance of "damn." It had depended on the left engine and thus lost electrical supply when that engine detached. Conversely, the flight data recorder provided details that were jumbled and challenging to decode due to the plane's severe and abnormal trajectory. Additional examination of the engine revealed multiple dents not originating from the runway collision. Pursuing this clue, it emerged the jet, specifically its engine, had received service at the American Airlines maintenance facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 2 months earlier. This was part of a C-check, a regular thorough systems examination for aircraft, typically planned every 12 to 18 months. Inquiry into the maintenance site uncovered a disturbing finding. It was discovered maintenance staff had not adhered to the prescribed procedures for engine servicing. Rather than removing the engine from its mount, termed a pylon for maintenance, they were hoisting the entire engine assembly still connected to its pylon. Once servicing concluded, it was subsequently reinstalled utilizing a forklift truck. This rudimentary reinstallation technique could cause the pylon to become misaligned relative to its securing pins, bending the pins. Furthermore, it was simple to inadvertently bang the pylon into position, harming it and initiating tiny stress cracks. American Airlines employees were not alone in adopting this shortcut. Personnel at Continental Airlines were also regularly removing and reinstalling engines utilizing the identical technique. While the DC-10 grounding persisted, urgent corrective measures were implemented throughout both airlines' fleets. Numerous jets were discovered to possess stress cracks, several of which were perilously near developing into full failures. With the accident sequence established, the pilot's conduct was examined closely. Some suggested they might have managed to return to the airport safely. Commercial airliners are engineered to remain airborne, relying solely on one engine during an emergency situation. Flight 191 still possessed 2 operational engines when it impacted the ground. Although absolute certainty about events aboard is impossible, the QRH, or Quick Reference Handbook, offered insight into the probable scenario. Following an engine loss, the QRH directs pilots to reduce airspeed in preparation for an emergency landing. During this specific incident, the flight crew had no means to realize they had actually lost an engine and consequently should have sustained velocity to preserve the jet's aerodynamic stability. In photos captured immediately before the crash, a stream of pale vapor is discernible. This was identified as hydraulic fluid. Depletion of hydraulic fluid would have prompted the flaps and slats on the aircraft's left side to retract to a neutral setting. With the right flaps and slats configured to decelerate the plane, the resulting airflow asymmetry and insufficient velocity would readily have induced a stall, causing the jet to bank onto its side. A remaining query was, why didn't the crew realize they were stalling? This was explained by the cockpit voice recorder's failure. It wasn't the sole system connected to the jet's left engine. The captain's stick shaker, or stall warning system, was also linked. At that time, regulations didn't mandate both control yokes be fitted with stick shakers, nor that power for these devices be sourced from all engines. The choice to install stick shakers on both control columns was available from the manufacturer McDonnell Douglas, but American Airlines had declined. The NTSB determined that the oversimplified, non-approved maintenance method employed by American Airlines was the fundamental reason for the tragedy, and that the flight crew had responded suitably based on their awareness of the circumstances. Rotate, damn, then silence, not just a dead recorder, but the silence of a stall warning never heard. The silence of forklifts clanging in hangars, shortcuts unchallenged. The silence where oversight should have shouted. The cause was found. A cracked pylon, a maintenance shortcut. Fines were paid, rules changed. But the deeper silence remains. We remember the 273 lives lost. We see the fallen engine. Yet Flight 191's true warning echoes in the quiet before disaster. The silence after a warning light is dismissed. The hush where saving time overrules the manual. The void where accountability goes unheard.